And now, a special Friday night edition of Night Talk on PCNC. Let's get to the point.
Okay, we're going to have a lot of fun tonight. We're going to talk about a number of things. Terry Schiavo, of course. We might be talking about steroids and the hearings in Washington, D.C., city politics. Wayne Fontana here is running for office. We'll talk about the mayor's race, development in downtown Pittsburgh, the price of gasoline. We have a marketing expert here. We're going to have a lot of fun with a business reporter from the Trib. So let's introduce the guests. First of all, we have Democrat Wayne Fontana, member of County Council, running for the state Senate. Thanks a lot for coming in. I appreciate it.
For the invitation.
Audrey Gusky is here. She's a marketing professor at Duquesne University. Dr. Gusky, thanks a lot for coming in.
Thanks.
Appreciate it very much. And also a reporter for the Pittsburgh Tribune Review, business reporter. Mike Yeomans is here. Mike, good of you to come in.
Great to be here.
Everybody's been talking about the Terry Schiavo case, so I guess we might as well talk about Terry Schiavo, too. Does anybody have any strong feelings on what's going on? The judge, by the way, today, earlier on, ordered that the two be removed from Terry Schiavo while the legal battle continues. Who has a strong feeling about this? Who wants to jump right in?
Well, I'll jump right in.
Okay.
I think that it's a shame that you know, they had to pull the feeding tubes on her. I'm very much pro-life, and it seemed like she, even though she had been deteriorating for a while, to do something like this, especially when her parents are very supportive of her and willing to continue to care for her. I think it's a very, very sad situation.
Wayne, what do you think?
Well, I agree. I think it's a terrible situation to have to, you know, put her family into that position. Apparently there's a big controversy between the family. No one can agree, but I think you have to let things go as they were, and I'm very much against the two being pulled.
Mike?
I just think the whole thing has just turned into a ridiculous circus that, from what I understand of what Terry was like in life, a very shy and retiring woman that would not want to be the center of attention, for this to come to this for her, I just think is tragic. And I happen to agree with Audrey that I don't think that with her parents' support that she should be removed from the life support.
Shouldn't this be a situation, though, where the family is involved, the family has to make some sort of a decision, and the prime family member in this case is the husband of Terry Schiavo? The courts agree with this. Every court that's handled this situation has agreed with his particular position. His view is that his wife doesn't want to live like this, and she would have wanted the plug to be pulled. The family disagrees, mom and dad disagree, and a lot of other people disagree. Isn't this a situation where the politicians are stepping in and saying, listen, we want the federal government or the state government to have a say in these kinds of decisions, intruding on the personal relationships that people have and the decisions that they want to make for themselves?
It's obviously a big issue, and it's going to set precedent for a lot of different situations.
Is it right, though, for the government to be doing this?
I don't think it is, and you know, it's very unfortunate, and he's claiming that that's what his wife had wanted, but yet she didn't have a living will, so we don't have evidence of that. And also, rumor has it that he's looking to get remarried again, so you know,
There's money issues involved as well.
But where do you stand on it? I mean, do you agree with me that the government shouldn't be stepping in and let the courts decide, which they have, that the prime decision maker in this case is the husband of Terry Schiavo? Well, why would you disagree with that?
Well, I think
living will. I mean, if there was a
that's why it's his decision.
Well,
because
I mean, there should be, and if there isn't, then I think you let things go. I mean, and that's my opinion. If she told him that, then it should have been written down. He should have taken it, or she should have done it. So it's hard to believe that actually happened.
I think we all agree that we should have living wills, and I think the one good thing that come out of this, I guess, is the lesson that we should sit down and have a living will.
Right.
Even someone as young as Mike should be doing that. On the other hand, though, Wayne, if you don't have a living will, does that mean that all of a sudden the state legislature and Congress are going to step in and make that decision that should be made privately within the family?
I agree. It should be made with the family. I don't think the government should step in.
Well, why do you say it's a shame then the plug is pulled?
Well, because it shouldn't be. I mean, you know, it's...
But that's the husband says that was her will.
What about the parents?
Yeah, what about the parents?
Well, who's closest legally and emotionally in this case? And the law does give special consideration to the intimacy and the closeness of a married relationship.
I understand, but if you read anything about this case, there's a lot of questions about how emotionally close this husband might have been to his wife.
And so the government should step in. The government doesn't particularly care for his conduct, and so the government should step in and say, you're being a bad boy.
You're right, that's a slippery slope. I do agree with that.
Well, it's not a slippery slope, it's wrong. You wouldn't argue. Come on, let's get a fight. Come on, let's get a fight going here. But no, it's you know, how can you say otherwise? You know, come on, let's argue with me.
I can look at this issue as a father, and I can look at this issue as a husband, and it's a terribly conflicting situation. Would I want some man making a decision for my little girl, who's been my little girl for all her life?
When you're willing to support her and take care of her and want to continue her life.
Yeah, but you don't have legal standing.
True.
And we're talking about Congress and the state legislature stepping in and the governor of Florida. Wouldn't you be willing to let the courts decide who has the right and the authority to make these kinds of decisions? Why would Congress want to stand up and make some sort of legislation dealing with this? Intruding in the personal lives of people.
How do we know that she doesn't have the will to live? How do we...
We don't. That's why it's come down to this.
Well, but she's living, and she continues to live. So why interfere with that?
Well, because he says that she doesn't want to live under these conditions.
But that's what he says.
Well, he's the only one, according to the courts, that has the authority to make that decision. She's comatose and doesn't have a living will.
Well, she's living.
But we can turn that argument around, too, and say, how does the state legislature, or how does Congress, or the governor, how do they know?
Exactly.
Well, it's been 7 years and she's survived, and this has been in the courts for a long time.
Yeah.
So it's a very, very difficult. It's
Why doesn't he divorce her and let the parents take over the situation?
What does that have to do with...
Well, I understand that.
That would be a great thing, I guess, from the point of view of the parents.
Right. We had a story today in the Tribune Review that indicates that in most of these situations, the families come to a consensus.
Right. Right.
It's only because there's no consensus.
But then again, you know, the question is, should the government step in and say, you must divorce this woman because we don't particularly care for your conduct in this case?
No.
We have to take a short break. And we're going to be right back, and we'll see if we can get another fight started. Stand by. Okay, we're back. We're going to talk now about gasoline prices. If you haven't been out today, good. Because when you go out and you look at the prices at the gas pump, it's going to be heart attack city. You're a marketing person. You're keeping an eye on retail prices. Yeah, what's the story here? $2.07, everybody tells me, is pretty much the price for regular. And
unfortunately, it's going to keep going up and up over the next couple of months. And there's several reasons for that. I mean, the good news is the economy is very strong, and as a result, the demand is very strong. What tends to happen is gas prices go up. China, the economy is strong, and it's been a cold winter, so as a result, a lot of fuel has been needed. And so you add all these factors together, and the price is just shooting up. But it gets scary for consumers because obviously this is a huge commodity that we all have to buy. And so as a result, I mean, it's big news for consumers. Even though it's a couple more pennies here and there, it adds up, and consumers are outraged. And you get into the Giant Eagle situation with the Get-Go's and the fact that they were attempting to provide, you know, discount prices if you shop in their store. And that was a huge outrage all this week.
Yeah. Let me ask Mike, you're a business reporter for the Trib. You know, and we talk about how the high price of oil, the high price of gasoline puts inflationary pressures on the national economy, even the world economy. How do we feel that locally here in Pittsburgh? I mean, obviously we're paying more for gasoline, but beyond that, does it have an effect on the economy locally, do you think?
I think that's hard to tell. I think it definitely has an effect on consumer sentiment, and it could affect how much people want to get out. You know, if it's a decision between making a long trip to go out shopping and to save a few bucks by keeping the gas in the tank, I think it could have a dampening effect.
Yeah. Explain that Giant Eagle situation for us.
Okay.
You know the background of it.
Right. Basically, the story is Giant Eagle for the past few months has been offering a promotion. And if you buy a certain amount of groceries, you tend to get a nickel or a dime off of your gallons of gas that you're buying. It's very restrictive because you're only allowed to buy so many gallons, and you have to do it within a certain time period. But a lot of the Pennsylvania oil and petroleum retailers have been outraged because they're claiming that it's illegal from a 1941 law, Unfair Sale Act, which suggests you can't sell prices and products below cost. But when you look at it, you know, what Giant Eagle is doing, it's a promotional aspect, and they figure if people are going to come into the stores and spend money for their groceries, then as a result, they will get this discount. And, you know, you have to think about it, PJ. Who's paying the money? Chances are Giant Eagle products are priced a little bit higher than other supermarkets. And so in the long run, it all evens out, and consumers are still paying about the same for groceries and gas.
So you wouldn't recommend that as a way to save money then, huh?
I would be very careful about it as a consumer, because you may not be saving the money that you think you're saving.
Well, we did a story on this. In fact, we broke the story on this, and we actually went out and shopped at Giant Eagle, Foodland, and Shop and Save, and we found Giant Eagle, even with the fuel discounts, was sort of right in the middle of the road on a basket of 20 items, and so you may not be paying a whole lot extra, and you still may be able to get the 10 cents per $50 spent off on a gallon of gas. And the petroleum retailers, I think, overshot their bounds on what they thought the sentiment would be for their position. If you heard talk radio over the past couple days after our story, people were coming out in overwhelming support of the Giant Eagle.
Yeah, well, it's a chance to save some money. You know,
Absolutely.
if you're going to save a few cents on a gallon of gasoline, especially when it's selling at $2.07, you don't care if it's illegal. you want the savings.
Exactly.
Now, what about governments? The counties, municipalities are spending a lot more money now, I suspect, because of the higher cost of gasoline.
There's no question about it. The trickle-down effect is certainly something that we have to consider. How's it going to affect the auto industry?
Mm-hmm.
Already there was an article in one of the papers about the SUVs aren't as popular as they were not too long ago. So it does have an effect, and it's going to have an effect on people's budgets. There's no question about it. People like to go out and move around, but at the same time, this is outrageous. And I think the demand for the get-go just shows that people want to save money on gasoline, and something should be done. And I think that, public opinion is that let's do something about it. So the administrations out there, the Bush administration, needs to pay attention.
Well, what are they going to do about it? They're going to be drilling for oil apparently up in Alaska, but beyond that, what can you do?
Well, they have to, we have to find ways to cut the prices, and that's something that I think is a federal issue, and it's something that needs to be looked at this point.
What can the federal government do, Audrey?
Well, I'm not sure, but the situation is when you look from a consumer's point of view, how much are consumers going to be paying more per year? And it's only about $200, so it's not that much when you look at the average, car is using, 700 plus gallons of gas a year. But the story tends to be, it's not just the gas they're paying, but if you have flowers delivered or furniture that you're getting, and all the industries and the business corporations are spending more for diesel, more for fuel to ship their products, and as a result, that's huge. And so it's not just the gas prices. I think overall we're going to see all prices escalate.
And this has got to be a real kick in the butt for the airlines.
Right.
I mean, they're already hurting
sure.
because of high fuel costs, partly because of high fuel costs. And this is going to be even worse, I guess.
Right.
I'll tell you what, I think we're due for a short break. So we'll do that. We'll be right back. Stay right where you are. Okay, no smoking inside the building here, but we want to talk about smoking. Should there be a ban on smoking in public places, even indoors, even bars and restaurants? There's a move afoot in Philadelphia to get that done in that municipality, and some people are talking about maybe a state legislature coming up with a law that would ban smoking in public places, even indoors, bars and restaurants across the state of Pennsylvania. New York does it, Toronto does it, Los Angeles, hell, everybody does it in California. So is this a good idea, a bad idea? How is this going to affect business? Mike, do you want to start out?
Well, first of all, when I take my family out for a meal, there's nothing worse than you're trying to enjoy a meal and somebody's cigarette smoke wafts over in your direction. It just ruins the whole experience.
Does that happen?
Sure, absolutely.
I thought most restaurants were pretty successful in being able to segregate.
A lot do. There's some smaller ones where it's a small dining room and the smoke doesn't pay attention to the so-called line between smoking and non-smoking. But I think a ban would be a little bit strong.
Really?
However, I do. I think a lot of restaurants. I did a story on this a few years ago. A lot of restaurants have elected to go smoke-free, and the ones that have told me that their business has improved. Now others...
I'm just curious, now, are they restaurants that don't have a bar, or do they have a bar?
There's some that don't have a bar. There's some that do have a bar, and some of them have come up with the solution of partitioning the bar area with doors and placing some seating in the bar area for people who want to to smoke while they're eating.
Yeah.
That's
so it's still kind of a tradition, isn't it? At least here in this area, where if it's a bar and you're serving liquor,
right.
there should be an ashtray there,
right.
ready for you to smoke. And a lot of people don't want to see that kind of thing change.
Because a lot of the bars and restaurants are concerned they're going to be losing business as a result.
Is that true? Is it going to happen, do you think?
It could possibly happen, yeah. And they're also claiming that a lot of lives are lost as a result of the secondary smoke. So you've got, the issue of life versus costs and profits that a bar could make.
What's been the experience in New York, in Toronto, and places like that? Does anybody know? Have they lost business? How has it changed the economy, if at all? Do you know?
I'm not sure.
I read something the other day about Georgia, and they said that business has actually been fine. There's been no change when they did that. But I think in this area, change is difficult, and so I think, as Mike said, it's tough to put a ban on. But everyone has a choice. I guess my concern is the secondary smoke for the employees too. I mean, they're there, they're working. Right. And they're getting it whether they like it or not, and that makes it difficult for some people. It's tough finding jobs and that sort of thing. So I think that's an issue that needs to be considered. But in this area, I think it's very difficult.
So as a legislator, you don't feel pressure to enact some sort of a ban or more restrictions on smoking?
I don't. I don't think it is, even though I know there's some things going on in Harrisburg about it as we speak, but I don't feel that way at this point.
Okay. What about, let's talk a little bit about downtown business in general. We have a mayor's race going on. We have the Act 47, the Oversight Board, a new budget that's just been passed by the city of Pittsburgh. What's going to happen here in the city of Pittsburgh? Do you have any sense of it, Mike? Let's start with you. What do you think?
The downtown retailing scene?
Well, yeah, the whole scene. The downtown retailing, the financial situation with the city, the loss of population. How do you see the future of Pittsburgh economically developing? Or do you see it developing at all?
That's a tough one. If things continue the way they were continuing, obviously the situation didn't look good, especially for the downtown area. You can't expect to add a 50% park to an already high parking tax and expect your downtown to thrive. Yeah. But I think there are some positive things that have changed to try to make the situation more equitable, and hopefully we.
Like what?
Huh?
Like what?
Oh,
what positive things?
They restructured some of the tax structures for city businesses to get rid of some of the nuisance taxes and make it a more fair.
So it's a little bit more friendlier for business now that they've come up with this new package of taxes?
A little bit.
You think so?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what do you think, Audrey?
Well, I'm very concerned because, we've lost two of our biggest retailers. We lost Lord & Taylor, and we lost Lazarus very recently. And now that Federated has bought the May Company, chances are currently all the Lazarus has become Macy's, and so Coughlin's will become a Macy's. Mm-hmm. And so the whole retail picture has changed dramatically. And the unfortunate thing for us in the downtown area is that we've lost a lot of the anchors in the big department stores. We were hurting to begin with, but if you don't have a really large department store or anchor to pull people in, chances are they're not going to be shopping anymore in the downtown area. And other areas, other metropolitan areas, they are. But in downtown Pittsburgh, for whatever reason, we've had tremendous problems getting people into the downtown area and getting them to shop and stay in the area.
Wayne?
I think the plan's changed, though. I mean, now, from when I first got on county council, the plan for Fifth and Forbes is so much different than it is now. We're talking about residential housing downtown, and I think that's something that has to be put in place. And once that's done, I think it'll attract more businesses downtown. So I think the plan has changed, and I think it's a better plan.
And well, let's talk about the mayor's race in a way. Let's come up with a plan now that is going to give somebody, whoever's running for mayor, an opportunity to build a platform. What would your platform be for the ideal mayoral candidate with regard to economic development downtown and elsewhere around the city of Pittsburgh? What really needs to be done? Does anybody have any strong feelings about that?
Well, I agree with Wayne that we need to have more and more downtown living in residential areas, because that's going to keep people into the area 24/7, and the vibrance of the city will increase.
Right, and that's starting to happen. You have the Heinz project on the north side. You have the Armstrong Cork and Seal building over in the Strip being renovated. You have a new condominium building going up along Fort Duquesne Boulevard. And there's other activity over there in the Cultural District along Penn Avenue. So you're starting to see some of that. but I'm a little bit more skeptical of the housing in the 5th Forbes corridor. Along the rivers, I could see that, but I'm not sure who's going to be enticed to live in the center city there.
Well, I agree. I think it has to be on the outskirts, but I think that will help revitalize the 5th and Forbes corridor. I think they also have to preserve some of the culture that's there, too. I think that has to be part of the plan downtown. I think that was part of the reason it fell apart last time, is because, you know, they wanted to knock everything down and not preserve that culture. But I think a mayor candidate also has to go into the other neighborhoods also and have a plan for those neighborhoods.
We'll talk about that when we come back. Okay, we'll continue the conversation on Night Talk. Get to the point. Stay where you are. We're going to be right back. We're trying to put together a package for a mayoral candidate, a platform to stand on that's going to guarantee financial happiness here in the city of Pittsburgh. We've been talking about downtown development, retail, and the like, and Wayne brought up the point that there are some neighborhoods out there, too, outside of the downtown area that are languishing in some cases and need some help. What specifically do you have in mind?
Well, it's the same thing about downtown. I mean, you have to build the business districts back up again. If you go through a lot of the neighborhoods, in the business districts of the neighborhoods, they're closed down, they're boarded up, and things have to change there. And if that happens, then people want to move back into those neighborhoods. City living is you know, having a community where people can go to the corner store or up to the main street and be able to buy milk and ice cream and go to the library and those types of things. And when those things disappear, the neighborhood disappears. So part of it's people feeling safe to do that. Part of it's having a good community groups and those sort of things. And I think a mayor candidate has to go out and promote that. And you know, and part of it is the business taxes and property taxes all play into that also.
Yeah, I guess the problem in the neighborhoods where businesses are boarded up is, Mike, that they can't make money there. The economy isn't such that they can thrive in that kind of a situation. Therefore, so be it, do you think? Or should government step in? What can government do to change the situation?
Well, I grew up in Beachview in the Brookline area where Wayne's from, and you know, I can remember the Broadway and Brookline Boulevard areas just booming like you wouldn't believe.
Mm-hmm.
And it's sad to see, you know, what those areas, you know, they're not total wastelands, but it's sad to see what's become of them. As far as what government can do, I think the best thing you can do is be as lean and as efficient as it can be, and get out of the way of entrepreneurs who want to come in. As far as what they can do proactively, there are tax break programs that can be offered and those sort of things. But I think the main thing is just to make the rules as simple as possible, so people who want to be entrepreneurs don't have to jump through a whole lot of bureaucratic hoops to be able to.
And I guess, Audrey, the problem is entrepreneurs don't want to move into these neighborhoods because the history is a history of failure, at least the recent history. That's why the stores are boarded up. What do you think?
Unfortunately, they're afraid of security. They're afraid of a lot of issues. They're not getting the support from the local city, state government, and so that's huge for them.
Well, what kind of support?
Well, financial support as well as, you know, just encouraging them and trying to get them into the areas. And one of the issues is we've got the big stores like the Walmarts coming in, which are huge, and they have the money, they have the power, they have the clout, and they're putting out the mom and pop stores, like Wayne was saying, you know, you don't have the little corner stores anymore. And I think that's a huge issue for local businesses because they're coming from outside the region, and a lot of the money that they're earning is going outside the region. We need to keep the money here.
Of course, if gas prices keep going up, people will start walking back to the corner stores again.
Well, it raises some interesting issues. Now, you know, nobody likes Walmart, I guess, because they're the big, you know, 500-pound gorilla. On the other hand, that's what the economy, that's what the free market is all about, is coming up with products at a price that people are happy to pay.
Well, somewhere out there in somebody's mind is the next Walmart that eventually could put Walmart out of business. I mean, all these changes we're seeing, Sears getting bought by Kmart, Federated and May merging, you know, somebody comes up with the better mousetrap, and you just can't protect the people that haven't had the vision to compete. Going back to the gas thing, before Giant Eagle was a target of the petroleum retailers, they were all mad at Sheetz for allegedly selling gas
Yeah.
below cost to bring people in their stores.
Right.
Well, I remember talking to Steve Sheets, who's the man who runs that company, and the line that he left me with was, I tell my people, my employees, every day to think of ways to put us out of business. Because if we don't think of the ways to put us out of business, somebody else is going to.
Yeah. So it's kind of a good offense is a good defense, or the best offense is a good defense.
But the bottom line is who's spending the money? It's the consumers, and so that we're shopping with our dollars, voting with our dollars, so to say.
Yeah.
And if consumers are going to the Walmarts, that's,
Yeah.
you know, so it's hard to fight that because that's the value. They're looking for the best bang for their buck.
Sure.
And currently that's where they're getting it with all the discounters.
But there are neighborhoods that are thriving. I mean, if you look at Squirrel Hill, if you look at Shady Side.
East
if you look
Liberty
at
now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And so what are they doing? There's not a Walmart there. So, you know, maybe
There's
it's
a
the type.
Lowe's, or not Lowe's, what is it?
Home Depot, maybe?
Home Depot, yeah, there's Home Depot.
But there are other stores that are making it. So I guess it's a different, there's different demands today, and I think you have to look into that and see what people want in their local neighborhoods.
Oh, yeah,
It's
look at the
not the same.
waterfront, how
Exactly.
huge that is there, how popular
So
it is.
it's a different way of looking, it's a different way of marketing, there's different demands, and I think things are changing, and people have to be aware of that.
Okay, we're going to take a short break. We're going to be right back. You stay where you are, okay? We're back. We've been talking about the economy in Pittsburgh, falling population, the loss of retail. How do we build things back up in the city of Pittsburgh economically and spiritually, I guess. And we were talking about, for example, the waterfront and how well they've done over in the Homestead area. Some people are saying that, listen, that's money that was going to be spent anyway in places like Squirrel Hill and even, you know, over in Fox Chapel or whatever. It's really not adding to the economy. It's just shifting things around. Is there a lot of that happening, do you think, Mike?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of the large developments we're seeing nowadays, waterfront, we have that big mall being built out in the northeastern part of the county in Fraser, the Pittsburgh Mills. There's another one a couple miles down the road from there, Deer Creek Crossing that's being proposed. They're talking about a big center in Washington County down near the Meadows called Victory Center. They're talking about a big outlet mall down there with a giant Bass Pro store, you know, kind of like that Cabela's that just opened up. And
So what's the dynamic here? Are we just, you know, recycling things? Are we adding to the economy? Is this good for the economy? Or are we just, you know, shifting shares on the deck of the Titanic? What do you
Well,
think?
consumers only have so much money, and so they're going to spend it somewhere, and they're going to go to the place they think is the hot, hippest place to go, and the place they're going to get the best bang for their buck. And so if the waterfront is the place they're going to go, or as Mike said, some of the newer malls, people always want to go to the new place.
Yeah.
Because if you go to a traditional place, it's like, well, you know, been there, done it. But they want to see, you know, what's hot and what's fun, and especially the young people want to go to some place that's really ritzy. And
So if it's really not adding to the economy, why are you government types offering tips and other, you know, kinds of things? It really doesn't help the economy. It doesn't. There's no payoff there.
Well, I think, you know, the government's worried about creating jobs, and the big debate obviously is after it's built. I mean, jobs that are created to build it are good jobs, but once it's built, then, you know, the debate is, well, you're taking, it's retail, it's all retail, so you're taking from one to the other. But I think you're going to see that change. I think, you know, things are going to change about, for example, the Mills was supposed to be more of an outlet, and it was supposed to have a hotel, and it was supposed to be an attraction from other counties, and things like that, and I'm not sure that's happening that way. So, and as a county council, we've seen that happen, and we, you know, as I was leaving, I resigned on Tuesday, but we had a big discussion about changing the philosophy and how we attract businesses through tips. The policy of how we give a tip is probably going to change in the future.
In what way? Give me a real quick.
First of all, they won't be as high. You know, maybe just 60% rather than 100% tip. Also, it won't be all retail. You know, we'll be looking for hotels. We'll be looking for industrial development. We'll be looking for other things besides retail. Otherwise, they won't get the tip.
Yeah.
So, and then there's another philosophy of you just give abatements. You know, why do you give a tip? Why not give it a 10-year abatement instead of a 20-year tip? So there's other avenues to try to spur the economic development that you want to bring in. We have to do something to bring them in. Our business taxes need to be looked at as they were in the city. but and also property taxes need to be looked at to try to attract people to come in.
But there's that philosophical problem. We need to lower taxes. We need to make things friendlier for business people, retailers, and the like. In doing that, though, we lose revenue. The municipalities lose revenue, and so they have to cut services. What services do they cut? Is that going to be bad for the overall economy in terms of, you know, attracting new people to live in the area? It seems to be a vicious cycle here. Do you have an answer for us, Mike?
Well, other than you have to learn to get lean and mean in the public sector.
So what do you cut? You're a municipality. You have less tax money coming in because you're giving breaks, making things a little bit easier for businesses and for homeowners. What kind of a government do you set up? What has to go?
Well, hopefully if you have businesses coming in as a result of your tax cuts, you're getting higher wage taxes and you're getting higher business taxes from the businesses moving in.
But that doesn't happen right away. That takes many years, and you've got to cut something up front. A politician can't say, we're going to cut taxes and make things easier for business without saying we have to make a budget adjustment.
Well, we're seeing that right now. We're seeing how hard it is in a city that has been proven to have far in excess of what it needs as far as its fire protection, finding it very difficult, even with the government's oversight board's gun to their head, to get rid of 6 fire stations. It's painful, there's no doubt about it.
They still haven't done that yet either.
Right.
So you're saying it's painful, but what needs to be done? Where do you cut? You cut fire jobs, you cut fire stations, maybe you cut some police. What about other city services? Are there other city services?
There's services you can merge.
Right.
There's services that can be privatized.
And why aren't you guys, I'm talking to you guys politicians, why isn't there more of a willingness to do those kinds of things, to be creative in terms of saving money? And
I think the county's been creative. I think, you know, there was a big layoff. When I was the budget chair a couple years back, we cut 3% across the board. So we're looking for more efficiencies. There is no question in my mind, no matter who the new mayor is, the county executive will be looking to merge services, and that will happen. I don't think you'll have the complete merger, but you will have merging of services for government to be more efficient, and I think that's the trend, and that's where it's going.
Okay, property tax assessments are going up. We've been hearing a lot about that. Dan Honorado wants to put a cap on the increases. Some people say that's illegal. That's a discussion we're going to have in just a few moments. You stay right where you are. Okay, we've got the big story about property tax assessments on the increase, sometimes as much as 50% or more in some cases. Dan Honorado says that's not fair. Municipalities and school districts aren't going to be adjusting their millage rate. So I've got to do something, says Honorado, and that is put a cap on the increases by a formula that is fairly complicated, but increases would not be more than 4% if Dan Honorado gets his way, and County Council voted in favor of that. Do you think it's going to stand up? Some people say that's not fair. Some people still are paying more or less than their fair share, and this is not the way to fix it.
Well, we certainly hope it stands up. I think this is a matter of survival for the taxpayers. It's not fair that people can't maintain their home because of their property taxes. It's not fair that they lose their home because of the property taxes. And it's not fair to this county that we're going to chase people into counties around us that don't have to reassess. So I think you have to look at it from that point of view. In the long run, certainly something has to be done about property taxes, either to reduce them or at least eliminate them, especially when it comes to school funding. So we have to look at that in the long run. But right now, with the big spikes in prices of homes in the last 3 years, this was the only way to go to save the taxpayers.
Do you guys agree with that?
Well, you've got so many senior citizens in the area, and that's a sad situation because they're on a fixed income. And as Wayne was saying, you know, you keep spiking the costs up, and they can't afford to live in their homes, and the homes they've lived in for, you know, their whole lives and raised their children there. That's a sad thing.
And this is the right way to do it, put a cap at 4%?
Well, I'm not sure if that's the right way, but I applaud it because I think something needs to be done. It's just been outrageous.
What do you think, Mike?
Well, I don't see how, though, it can be fair for people that are assessed at a fair value, who are paying their fair share of what their property is worth, subsidizing people that whose assessments aren't at their fair value and won't rise to their fair value under the 4% cap, maybe for some time.
And you can see it coming. The courts are going to agree with Mike, I think. Wouldn't you agree? I mean, the courts are going to say this is not fair. It's people like the idea that they're capping, increases at 4%, especially the people, obviously, that are having increases at 50%. But it's obvious that it's not fair, and the courts are going to look at this and say, you've got to do something else.
Well, we're not sure that that's going to happen.
Want to bet?
Well, I don't want to bet, no. But we're not sure at this point. But even still, I think that there may be another formula out there. But the bottom line is you have to do something to help the people that can't afford to keep their houses because of property taxes. I don't think anyone stood up and said it was fair as far as accuracy goes. I mean, it's hard to be accurate with assessments anyway. You know, as a realtor, I can tell you it's very difficult to appraise the same house the same way every time. Houses are bought with emotion, so you know, it's hard to put a price on that. So it's really not the best way to tax people. So something else has to change to make it fairer and more accurate.
Mike, you...
Don't the assessments already, or what people actually pay already get capped, but because municipalities are not allowed to collect a windfall, what is it, about 5%?
Yeah.
There's a 5% windfall law that's, you know, it's a state law, but when the chief executive was the controller, he audited a lot of those school districts and found that a lot of them were over the cap. It's hard to calculate. Do you count new construction or don't you? You know, the accounting methods were different from municipality and school district to the others. And so it was very difficult. He found a lot of discrepancies in that. One of the things that should be done in Harrisburg is to pass the law for revenue neutral. That would help. There would be no backdoor tax increases then. So that's one way. Promoting the homestead.
Explain that again, the revenue neutral thing. What are you talking about now?
The taxes should not raise because of a reassessment. Okay. And that's what's been going on. You know, the municipalities...
In other words, they should adjust the millage rate.
Exactly, and they don't.
Why can't some sort of political pressure be put on the municipalities and school districts, and the county will say, listen, it's not our fault, this is what the assessments are, and they're generally accurate, it's up to the municipalities and school districts to make these adjustments.
Well, that's what they're trying to do.
Well, no, they're not. And Honorado's saying, he's just throwing his hands up saying they're not going to do it. So I'm
you have Act 72 right now that they're asked to opt in, and there's only 3 or 4 that have opted in. Why is that? That's new revenue slot money that can help reduce property taxes, and they're not doing it.
Well, because of the referendum provision, probably.
Well,
right?
but it's a way to reduce property taxes. It's new money. It's not even shifting money to sales tax or income tax. And they're not opting in. They're saying, oh, no, we don't think that's right. So, you know, you're trying to ask them to do it. You're trying to make a program that might work, and they're not responding. They're not responding to revenue neutral. They're not responding to homestead exemptions. We in the county have provided a $15,000 homestead exemption. Nobody else is doing it.
Does anybody believe that we're going to get, when we finally have slots, that we're going to get $1 billion a year for school district property tax reform? $1 billion a year. Does anybody believe that? Nobody believes that.
Yeah, whenever these kinds of things are passed, I think the revenue projections are blown sky high. I mean, you have other states around West Virginia. Now they've seen that we've done slots. What are they going to turn around and do? They're going to put table games
right
there. They're going to raise the ante, so to speak. And you have Ohio and Maryland that are both looking at some sort of gambling legislation. So do I think that the revenue projections will be made? I have serious doubts.
Maybe we can talk a little bit more about that when we come back. Short break, and we're going to be right back. Stay where you are. I guess slots gambling is going to be coming sooner or later to Pittsburgh and elsewhere around the state, and when it does, like we were talking earlier about how much money it's actually going to raise, and is there going to be enough money to give us significant improvements in terms of the school property tax. How is this going to shake down, Wayne? What do you think?
Well, I think there will be some money to reduce property taxes, but I don't think it's going to be overwhelming that it could eliminate it. I just don't think that's going to happen, especially with just slot parlors. I think the real money's made in the casinos, the big casinos. So I think there'll be some money generated, and it's new revenue, and that's something that's good. But at the same time, I don't project it to be something that's going to be overwhelmingly going to take care of property taxes.
What about the economy? How does this affect the economy? Good, bad?
Well, they claim it's not going to really have a huge impact. Other cities of our size that have done fair. My concern is the social ills that happen, you know, more crime coming, people with addictions and things like that. So, I mean, you're balancing things out. Maybe you're getting more money in, but as a result, you could be paying more money for additional issues that we really didn't expect or want.
Well, now, regarding the social issues, especially with regard to addiction, does it really increase addiction, the presence of slots, the legalized gambling, and the like, or is it to just bring out addiction that's already been there? People that are addicted to betting on football games or whatever. I really...
It's a combination. I mean, people...
So it does increase the number of people with addictions?
It will, and the people who have problems, it's obviously going to be a huge temptation for them.
What do you think, Mike? Good for the economy?
Well, going back to her, Audrey's point, the people who were going to gamble were going to gamble anyways. If there was no gambling in Pennsylvania, no tracks or anything, there'd always be the bookies. The people who are going to do it are going to do it. But also, like she said, if you do expand the presence of it, you do have the potential of bringing more people into it who could, develop those sorts of problems. As far as its economic impact, I guess it'll stem the tide of the people who are currently going down to Mountaineer or Wheeling Island or out to Atlantic City to do that. So it will recapture some of those dollars. But then again, the idea of the people who will be running these places will be to try to empty people's pockets on site. So how much spillover development there could be from that is probably very limited, and that's probably why the people on the north side fought that tooth and nail over there.
Yeah. You know, this reminds me of the drug situation. You say that, that well, how long is it going to be before we understand that the war on drugs isn't working right now, and we need some sort of other policy to recognize that there is a market for drugs like there is a market for gambling? It's going to be going on whether it's legal or not legal. How do we get a better handle on this? Does anybody have any bright ideas?
Well, there's no enforcement. I mean, there's laws, but they don't seem like they want to enforce the laws. They don't seem to like that they would really want to stop it from coming in. I just don't think the effort's being made, and I think if they really wanted to do the right thing, they would put that effort in.
So you think it is possible, if you enforce the current laws, to solve, or at least come close to solving our current drug problem?
Yes, I think it's a matter of drugs being imported into this country, and I don't think we make a big enough effort to stop it.
Would you agree with that?
Well, I don't know. I just think that if it's something that people are going to want to do, that people are going to find a way to supply them, and it's just too big an industry. There's too much demand and too many people willing to supply.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on that, and I think one of the reasons why we're not dealing with it is because it's such a politically electric issue. You don't want to come out and say, listen, I think the government should be getting into the drug trade in one sort or another to regulate it and spend less money. Otherwise, I mean, that's the only alternative, it seems to me, that we have to what's going on right now, and that's pumping billions of dollars down the sewer on programs that just don't work.
Maybe to work harder on prevention and strengthening families and communities.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of the billions that we're doing on interdiction and on programs that don't work should be going into that rather than some of the other programs that aren't working. Well, we'll see what happens. Hey, listen, thanks a lot for coming in, everybody. Merry Christmas, Audrey. We talked to you at Christmas, Easter, Valentine's Day, to find out how the retail sales are going.
Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Thank you. And you're going to be, you are running for the state senate. Best of luck to you, and thanks a lot for coming in.
Thank you.
And you still have plenty of ink, so you're going to be writing some stuff for the trip.
That's right. I have a story in this Sunday on the downtown hoteling scene, so look out for that.
We'll look for it. Thanks a lot for being here. Have a great weekend, everybody, and we'll talk to you later. Good night.